Have you ever heard of a hero with feathers? A soldier who weighed less than a pound but carried the weight of nearly 200 lives on its wings. Today, we're telling the incredible, true story of Cher, a messenger pigeon who became one of the greatest heroes of World War I. The year is 1918. The fog of war hangs heavy over the Argonne forest in France. We're in the final, brutal stretch of the Great War. Deep behind enemy lines, surrounded and cut off from all support, is the U.S. 77th Division. They would soon be known to history as the Lost Battalion. Major Charles Whittlesey and his more than 550 men had pushed deep into German territory following orders. But the Allied units on their flanks failed to advance, and soon the Germans closed in, encircling them completely. They were trapped in a small, muddy ravine with no food, dwindling water, and very little ammunition. The enemy was all around them, and hope was fading fast. For days, they held their ground against relentless German attacks. But their greatest threat came not from the enemy in front, but from the sky above. Their own artillery, unaware of the battalion's exact position, began raining down shells on them. It was a terrifying case of friendly fire. Men were falling, morale was collapsing, and Whittlesey knew he had to get a message out, or they would all be wiped out. This is where our feathered hero enters the story. The 77th Division had brought carrier pigeons with them, trained by the U.S. Army Signal Corps. These birds were their last lifeline, their only way to communicate with headquarters. Whittlesey scribbled a desperate message. Many wounded. We cannot evacuate. He attached it to the leg of their first pigeon and released it into the sky. Hearts pounded as they watched it ascend, only to see it shot down by a storm of German bullets. A second pigeon was sent out with an even more urgent plea. It, too, met the same tragic fate. The men's hearts sank. They were watching their last hopes fall from the sky. Now, only one pigeon remained. Her name was Cher, which means dear friend in French. She was a black check-cock pigeon, although often referred to as a female. Into a small canister, Major Whittlesey placed his final, desperate message. It read, "We are along the road parallel to 276.4. Our own artillery is dropping a barrage directly on us. For heaven's sake, stop it! Everything depended on this one tiny bird." As Cher was released, the German soldiers, knowing exactly what she was, unleashed a furious volley of fire. The American soldiers watched in horror. For a moment, it seemed she was hit. She faltered, tumbled, and began to fall back to the earth. A collective gasp went through the ravine. This was it. It was over. But then, something miraculous happened. Cher, despite being grievously wounded, righted herself. She pushed through the pain, flapped her wings with a strength no one thought possible, and began to climb again. She climbed higher and higher, a tiny speck of defiance against a sky filled with smoke and death. She flew through the barrage, dodging bullets and shrapnel, on a mission to save her comrades. For 25 grueling miles, Cher flew. She was bleeding, she was in agony, but she never stopped. Finally, she arrived back at her loft at division headquarters, collapsing in the hands of her handler. The sight was horrific. She had been blinded in one eye, shot through the breast, and one of her legs was hanging on by a single tendon. But dangling from that shattered leg was the canister that held the message. The signalmen rushed the note to the commanding officer. The artillery coordinates were immediately updated, and the friendly fire ceased. A rescue operation was launched. Thanks to the information Cher delivered, the Allied forces were able to pinpoint the Lost Battalion's location and break through the German lines to relieve them. When the smoke cleared, only 194 men of the original 550 walked out of that ravine. They had survived against all odds, and they owed their lives to the courage of a little pigeon. Cher didn't just survive, she became a national hero. Army medics worked tirelessly to save her life. They couldn't save her leg, so they carved a tiny wooden prosthetic for her. She was awarded the Croix de Guerre, one of France's highest military honors, for her bravery. When she returned to the United States, she was personally seen off by General John J. Pershing, the commander of the American Expeditionary Forces. Her story captured the heart of the nation. She became a symbol of courage, resilience, and the incredible bond between humans and animals, even in the darkest of times. Cher lived for another year, eventually succumbing to her wounds. After her death, her body was preserved and is now on display at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., where she stands proudly, a permanent tribute to her extraordinary valor. So, the next time you see a pigeon, remember Cher. Remember that heroes come in all shapes and sizes. It's not about the strength you have, but how you use it. Cher, weighing less than a pound, showed more courage than many could ever imagine, flying through a hail of bullets to save 194 lives. A true dear friend and an unforgettable hero. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a like and hit that subscribe button for more incredible tales from history. We'll see you in the next one.